comes up and over the top. Asgreen's coming alongside. Asgreen's there, but Van der Poel responds. It's Malo. He's going to have another. Oh, he hasn't got it. He's blown up at the very last. And Asgreen roars across the line.
She won it in 2011. 10 years later, she wins it here in 2021. The European champion for Movistar does it again.
The Ronde van Vlaanderen, or Tour of Flanders, is upon us again, starting this Sunday for men and women. For many cycling fans, it's their favourite race of the year, and plenty of us here at GCN have that same sentiment. A monument classic, Belgium's biggest race of the year in a country that is totally cycling bonkers. Everything stops for the day when the Ronde is on. Go anywhere in the country where the route doesn't touch and the place feels like a ghost town. The route itself, though, is always lined with people, takes on a carnival atmosphere, and after a spell without crowds due to COVID, that party feel will return this year. We'll have all the action live on GCN Plus for men and women on Sunday, but first up, here is our big preview, the route, favourites, and our all-important picks for the win. Starting off with the route, and let's take a glance at the men's course first. Similar to previous years, but there are a few changes to previous editions to be aware of. The race starts again in Antwerp for the 6th time since changing from a departure in Bruges since 1998. 20 kilometres has been added to the route length too, taking the total distance up to 272.5 kilometres before a big finish into the town of Oudenaarde on that long open finish straight which has created some nail-biting finales in recent years. The first half of the race usually sees an early break go clear and build a solid margin as the peloton looks at a decisive second half of the route in which the cobbles and bergs come thick and fast. The cobbles of Leiphovenstraat and Paddestraat appear in quick succession early on, as does the first ascent of the Oude Kwarmont with 136 kilometres to go. However, the first real shake-up and key moment occurs with 101 kilometres to go when the riders tackle the Molenberg. A short, steep and extremely narrow climb, there is always a huge fight into the bottom which lines the bunch out dramatically. Poor positioning here can really ruin your chances. After Molenberg, there is a rapid succession of climbs which kickstart the early finale of Flanders. Marlboroughstraat and Berendries and Valkenburg climbs all crammed together within 15 kilometres, after which the peloton has 88 kilometres to go. The race then heads towards the Canarieberg, crested at 70.5 kilometres to the finish. This is a climb which really sets up the finishing loops, which we'll explain in just a moment. The Canarieberg is paved, not cobbled, but a long climb which narrows over the top. The key moment is the run-in, a dangerous, wide and fast descent down into a tight right-hander. Honestly, one of the scariest places and pieces of roads you can race on. Positioning here is vital, which is why you see such a fight into that right-hander at the bottom. Cresting the climb, the race will be strung out and heading towards the finishing circuits, containing the Oude Kwarmont and Paterberg combo. The first ascent of Oude Kwarmont is a key moment in the race at 54.6 kilometres to go. 2.2k long, averaging 4%, with ramps of up to 10% and a couple of sections where the cobbles get incredibly rutted and rough. It's a big challenge, and the changes in gradient are perhaps what makes it so hard to conquer. A huge effort is needed in the middle section to get on top of that gear and accelerate, which is usually where we see key attacks go clear. After the Oude Kwarmont, the race tackles the Paterberg, only 360 metres long but 12.9% average gradient and 20% max ramps. It's a brute. The Koppenberg is next, a climb steeped in history and a hail so steep that even the best in the sport have to walk it at times. That comes with 44 kilometres to go, before the race takes on the Steenbeek-Release cobbles at 39.2 kilometres to go, and Tijnberg, affectionately known as the Boonenberg, with 36 kilometres left to ride. At 26k to go, there is the short, sharp, cobbled Hotonde, a climb coming out of the city of Rons on the border with Wallonie at Flanders' southern border. Then we have the big finale, taking on the Oude Kwarmont and Paterberg for one last time before that dramatic flat run into the finish, 13.3k into Oudenaarde, where the race really does seem to hang in the balance and provide that nail-biting conclusion. That's the men's race. Now let's take a look at the women's route, which sees some exciting new additions this year, including the Koppenberg for the first time and also the Muiden, a section of road in West Flanders not often talked about, but it is a real test. Pan flat, but so exposed and open, it traverses a section of moorland and the road is just in terrible condition. Concrete slabs with a trench about the size of a loaf of bread in the middle of the road. If the echelons hit on de Merden, it's carnage because every time you cross this trench, you have to bunny hop over. The gutters on the side of the road are in a similar state too. Always carnage, always crashes, and always a section of road which strikes fear into the heart of any racer. The women's race is 100 kilometres shorter than the men's at 158.6k. The cobble sectors start at 113k to go with the Leiphovenstraat and the Paddestraat combo, similar to the men's race. The pattern of the course is similar to the men's from this point for a while too, with the Molenberg, Marlboroughstraat, Bedendries and Valkenburg coming in rapid fire. That brings the women to 63.8 kilometres to the finish and will be the first really key moment in the race. From this point, the race differs to the men's and heads towards the Koppenberg, 600 metres long, average gradient of a whopping 11.6%. It is a brute and will be a decisive moment in the race, crested at 44.6 kilometres to go. Straight after, the women face the cobble climbs of Steenbeek-Dries, Tijnberg and Hotond, leaving 26.5 kilometres still to go and setting up that final battle over the Oud-Quarmont and Paterberg. Similar to the men, the Paterberg will be climbed with 13.3 kilometres still to race by the top. The perfect launch pad for those who have the legs, and equally a brutally hard climb to survive if you're beginning to run out of gas. That flat open run into Oudenaarde will then greet the riders for the same finish as the men on the outskirts of town. Both courses are incredible and will provide some of the most exciting racing we'll potentially see all year. So let's dive in and take a look at who the favourites will be. Starting off with the men, who may emerge out of the cobbles and climbs on top. Personally, I think this year's race is going to be wide open for a few different riders to take the win. The favourite though has probably got to be Wout van Aert. The Belgium champion has never won Flanders. The closest he came was second in 2020. But after such dominant displays of form in the Classics so far, particularly with those wins in Het Nieuwsblad and E3, he'll have a whole load of riders trying to jump on his wheel. Even he moves up the bunch for a chat with a teammate early doors. He wasn't quite on the same level in Wevelgem, although still was perhaps the strongest on the Kemmelberg. He definitely does seem to have timed his form to perfection though. His squad, Jumbo-Visma as a whole, have been firing on all cylinders too, with Christophe Laporte in particular not only proving to be an invaluable teammate at the pointy end of races, but gaining solid podium finishes for himself as of late. Van Aert's main rival, as always, will be Mathieu van der Poel. The 2020 winner was perhaps looking uncertain to take part this year, with back issues hampering the start of his season, although in recent weeks he has made a quick return to form. His first race back, Milan-San Remo, netted him a podium with third place, and he took a stage win at the recent Coppi e Bartali too. Imagine your first race of the season being San Remo and getting a podium. Pretty mad. You can never count Van der Poel out, and he will definitely be a key favourite come Sunday. It won't just be the Van der Poel versus Van Aert show, however. Perhaps the biggest threat and joker to the pack will take the form of double Tour de France winner Tadej Pogačar. The Slovenian will be on the start line for UAE Team Emirates, an unknown quantity perhaps on the cobbles. We will get a glimpse into how he will fare this Wednesday at Tour of Vlaanderen, but other than that, we don't have much cobble classics experience to judge him by. But this is Tadej Pogačar we're talking about, a rider that no longer needs much of an introduction, with many comparing him to Merckx. He's already won two of the sport's monuments in the form of Lombardia and Liège. Can he do it on the cobbles too? Personally, I'm going to make a very bold claim and say no. I'll probably be proved wrong, but I just think the physicality needed to position yourself in Flanders and avoid trouble to be where you need to be at the right time might be a little bit too much for Pogačar. He'll have a strong team around him, yes, but I just don't see him emerging through the chaos and navigating the splits early on. However, it must be said, he is just that strong that potentially he doesn't need to position himself. He'll just catch everyone up on the climbs. Time will tell, of course, but his addition to the start list will create an extra dimension of excitement and intrigue. That is for sure. Who else may challenge those three? Last Sunday's Gent-Wevelgem winner will be out of the action. He is sticking to his plans to travel home to Eritrea after spending 3 months on the road away from his family. I imagine everyone around Biniam Gourmet at Intermarché Wanty will be secretly wishing he'd extend his European block a little while longer, but you've got to admire his decision to prioritise family. At only 21 years old though, I'm sure he'll have plenty of cracks at Flanders left, a race which you've got to say almost suits him more than Wevelgem. Usually we talk about the entire Quick-Step Alpha Vinyl squad at this point, and it would be be harsh to not big up their chances. Indeed, they take last year's winner, Kasper Asgreen, as well as a strong squad of proven classics winners to the start line. However, relatively speaking, they haven't quite figured as they normally would on the cobbles so far. They weren't even in the top 30 at Wevelgem and appear to have their tails between their legs somewhat compared to their usual confidence. Perhaps missing the character of Alaphilippe, who instead piles his focus on the Ardennes Classics. Quickstep will rely on Lampard, Seneschal, Asgreen and Stuybar to deliver a result. Their backs are up against the wall, and whilst things aren't going their way as of late, you would be a fool to count them out of the running. Although, you've got to think Lefebvre might have been on the phone to Alaphilippe to try and persuade him to get to Antwerp with a number on his back this Sunday. Trek Segafredo have been another squad who have eclipsed Quickstep so far this season, in terms of teamwork anyway perhaps. Stuyven has been there or thereabouts in each Classics. Mads Pedersen has been omnipresent as always, and Quinn Simmons has taken a step up too in terms of results, although 2 DNFs in Wevelgem and E3 means his form has dipped slightly in recent weeks. Either way, Trek have ridden incredibly well as a team with what seems like, from the outside at least, high morale and a race like Flanders that counts for everything. Milan-San Remo winner Matej Mohorovic will take the start for Bahrain victorious, likely without his dropper seat post if his recent starts in Belgium are anything to go by. He has shown that his San Remo form is well and truly still with him though, with a 4th place at E3 and 9th at Ghent-Wevelgem. Definitely not one to count out. 2 monuments out of 2 would be impressive though, wouldn't it? Others to look out for include Michael Matthews for Bike Exchange AECO, who got back to winning ways last week in Catalonia after a long dry spell. Stefan Kuhn for Groupama FDJ, who scored a savvy podium at E3. Matteo Trentin and Alexander Kristoff can't be ruled out either. Ineos Grenadiers have had a cracking start to the year too, but on the cobbles they are missing a big victory so far this season. Tom Pidcock would arguably be their main man for the Classics, along with Dylan van Baarle. However, the recent cyclocross world champion has been struggling for form as of late as he deals with a mysterious stomach issue that seriously hampered him. If Pidcock recovers fully in time for Flanders, he will definitely feature, but currently Ineos are missing his complete presence. Van Baarle is a serious challenger too, his best place 4th back in 2017. Plenty of names to take the win in the men's race either way. I'm going for Tadej Pogačar. I know I said he wouldn't win, but now I've decided against that. I think he's going to win. I think he's got the strength to take it, despite not having quite the same cobbled experience as the Van Aerts and the Van der Poels. Let me know who you think is going to win down in the comments section below. As always, we have our all-important presenter predictions, and here's what my fellow colleagues think are going to take the win in the men's race of the Tour of Flanders.
Predictions for Flanders? Well, in the men's, it has to be Mathieu van der Poel. Freshest head, freshest legs, and he's got a little bit of talent as well, which I think we'll see him win on Sunday.
My predictions are, predictably, going to be Wout van Aert for the men's.
My favorite for Ronde van Vlaanderen men is Mathieu van der Poel.
My prediction for this Ronde van Vlaanderen is, for the men's, Jonathan Narvaez. I think he is in great shape now.
My favorite rider for the Ronde is Wout van Aert. Like every year, everybody race against him, but this year he has a great team and he can finally win.
For the men's race, I'm with Christophe Laporte.
I go for a beginner, I go for Tadej Pogačar.
Mathieu van der Poel. He's going to double up.
On to the women's race now, and here are who we think the key women are to look out for in the Tour of Flanders this year. Arguably, the race favourite in the women's race will be Annemiek van Vleuten. Last year's winner, indeed a double winner of Flanders, Van Vleuten is always a threat. A win in Het Nieuwsblad and a strong 2nd place in Solo Bianche already. She will be on the start line with a strong squad from Movistar too, with Danish 22-year-old Emma Norsgaard a race favourite in her own right. She hasn't finished lower than 6th place in any race she has started this year. And with a win in La Semaine, is ready to step up for a big Classics win. Trek Segafredo also comes with a strong squad, particularly world champion Elisa Balsamo, who had 3 World Tour wins in a row last week. Trof Alfreda Binder, De Panne and Ghent-Wevelgem all back-to-back in the space of 7 days. She was 2nd in Drenthe too, just before that. The 24-year-old Italian's performance at Flanders will be hotly anticipated, and it's got to be said, arguably a clearer race favourite than Van Vleuten at the moment. Trek also brings Ellen van Dijk, Elisa Longo Borghini, Lucinda Brandt and Andrea Cordon Rago to the party too. Jumbo-Visma will pitch their hopes on Marianne Vos. She has had a strong cyclocross campaign this winter, and with the likes of Anna Henderson in support at Jumbo, can't be counted out. A previous winner all the way back in 2013. Can she repeat that effort 9 years later? As always, SD Works bring plenty of options to Flanders. Home favourite Lotto Kopecky will delight the local fans if she emerges on top. Demi Vollering has the fast legs if things come down to a sprint, and Chantal van den Broek-Black has won this race solo in the past. Plenty of different cards to play for SD Works then, and in a race like Flanders, that is extremely valuable. Marta Bastianelli is another key favourite, 3 wins to her name this season and some strong podiums on the cobbles already. The Italian won in 2019 and will be a fierce contender on Sunday for UAE Team ADQ. As will Elena Webers, with wins in Drenthe and Knockler so far and a second place in the Panna without her lead-up rider Charlotte Kool due to a crash in the closing stages. Webers is another who will be hoping for a larger group contesting the finish into Oudenaarde, especially with that sprint. Australian Grace Brown must be considered too as a potential outsider. Her results so far aren't as strong as the other riders already mentioned, but she has put down some serious performances, most notably at Gent-Wevelgem, in which she went on the offensive on the run-in to the finish. Personally, I'm going to go for Emma Norsgaard. Let me know who you think is going to take the win down in the comments section below. And here are my fellow presenters' picks for the Women's Tour of Flanders.
In the women's, I'm going for the world champion Elisa Balsamo of Trek Segafredo. More often than not in the one days this year, she's got it right, as has her team, and I think she will again on Sunday.
Marianne Vos for the women's.
My favorite for Ronde van Vlaanderen women is Elisa Balsamo.
Marta Bastianelli.
After 3 consecutive victories in World Tour race in 8 days, Elisa Balsamo is definitely my favorite for the Ronde.
In the women's race, I'm going to go Elisa Balsamo.
And for the women's race, I think Elisa Balsamo.
Okay, yeah, she was quite strong, but my pick is Annemiek van Vleuten.
May the better GCN presenter win.
Don't forget, you can catch both races live over on GCN Plus if you're in Europe or the Asia Pacific region. Unfortunately, excluding China, Australia and New Zealand. And if you want more Flanders related viewing to whet your appetite, check out Dan's latest documentary released this week on GCN Plus, How to Win Flanders. Here is a little sneak peek of the trailer.
I am passionate about this particular region of Belgium for one key reason. It's the home to my favourite race, the Ronde van Vlaanderen, or the Tour of Flanders.
What makes this race so brutal? It's these, the Hellingen. Short enough to put riders into the red. Steep enough to make even the best get off and push. As bike racing goes, it is as thrilling as it gets.
Looks great, that one. I am so looking forward to the Ronde now. It is a cracker, one of my favourites when cycling really does reach fever pitch in Belgium. Let us know down in the comments once more who you will be rooting for this Sunday, and we hope you'll find a quiet spot to enjoy the race if you haven't made it over to Flanders already. Thanks for watching everyone. As always, see you on the next video.